Make It Stick: The Science of Successful Learning by Peter C. Brown, Henry L. Roediger III, and Mark A. McDaniel. Picture yourself as a pilot, alone in a small twin-engine Cessna, slicing through the darkness 11,000 feet above Texas. It's the dead of night. Just you, the steady hum of engines, and a cargo hold full of critical parts bound for Kentucky, where an entire factory line sits idle, waiting for what you're carrying. Then you see it, a flicker on the dashboard. The oil pressure in your right engine is dropping. You watch the needle, hoping you can make it to the next fuel stop, but it keeps falling. You've had your hands on piston engines since childhood, and your gut is screaming that this is serious. Wait too long, and the engine could seize completely. So what do? You're utterly alone. The world below is asleep. No co-pilot to turn to, no manual within reach. In this moment, everything comes down to what you actually know, what you've truly learned. For pilot Matt Brown, this wasn't a training exercise. He ran through his mental checklist, weighing every option. He remembered the tolerances of the Cessna 401. He recalled that with a light load, he might stay airborne on one engine. So he made the call. He shut down the failing right engine, feathered the propeller to cut drag, pushed more power to the left, and began limping toward the nearest airstrip. But the most critical decision still loomed: how to land. Then it came to him. One simple but vital fact: without power on the right side, the only way to maintain enough lift for touchdown was to approach the runway in a wide, left-hand turn. He did exactly that, and brought the plane down safely. Matt's ability to pull that knowledge from memory, under crushing pressure, is what learning that sticks really looks like. It's not about acing a test. It's about having knowledge that's there when your life depends on it. Which raises a profound and slightly unsettling question: how do we actually get that kind of knowledge? If you're like most people, you learn to study by rereading your textbook, highlighting passages in neon colors, and cramming the night before exams. We assume that if we just expose ourselves to information enough times, it'll burn itself into memory. But what if decades of research have proven that those methods are among the least effective ways to learn? What if the very things that feel productive, the highlighting, the rereading, that comforting sense of familiarity with your notes, are actually illusions, tricking you into believing you've mastered something when you haven't? The book we're diving into today, Make It Stick, isn't just another collection of study tips. It's a revelation. Written by two renowned cognitive scientists, Henry Roediger and Mark McDaniel, along with master storyteller Peter Brown, this book tears down everything we thought we knew about learning and offers something better, based not on gut feelings or tradition, but on solid empirical evidence. By the time we're done today, you'll understand these simple, powerful, and often counterintuitive strategies that separate successful learners from those who struggle. You'll discover why making learning harder can actually make it stronger, and you'll walk away with tools you can use tonight to learn anything more effectively and remember it for life. This isn't just about better grades. It's about becoming more capable, more confident, and more effective in every corner of your life. Let's start with a simple experiment you can try right now. Without peeking, try to draw a penny from memory. What does it look like? Which way does Lincoln face? Where's the date? What words appear on it? If you're like most people, you've seen a penny thousands of times. But when you actually try to recall the details, your mind goes blank. In one study, most people couldn't even pick the correct penny from a lineup of fakes. This simple test reveals the first great myth of learning: the idea that exposure equals understanding. We assume that if we reread a chapter enough times, or highlight our notes in rainbow colors, we're learning. It feels like we are. The text becomes familiar. The words flow smoothly. The authors call this the illusion of fluency. We mistake growing familiarity for true mastery, but it's a trap. Research shows that rereading a text multiple times in a row gives you almost no long-term benefit compared to reading it just once. The time you spend doing it is largely wasted. This brings us to the heart of the problem. We're terrible judges of when we're actually learning. We gravitate toward strategies that feel easy and productive. But the gains from these strategies are, as the authors put it, like writing in sand, here today and gone tomorrow. Think of the college student who shows up at his professor's office, devastated over a bad exam grade. "I don't understand," he says. "I went to every lecture. I highlighted the textbook. I reread my notes for hours until I knew them cold." The professor asks a few simple questions. Did you try to explain the main ideas in your own words? Did you test yourself on the key concepts? Did you connect what you were reading to things you already knew? The answer, almost always, is no. The student was diligent, but he was diligent at the wrong things. He fell victim to the illusion of mastery. He mistook fluency with the text for mastery of the ideas. So if our most common study habits don't work, what does? This is where the book shifts from critique to guide, and it starts with one central, powerful idea. To learn, you must retrieve. This is the principle of retrieval practice. Simply put, it's recalling facts or concepts from memory. And according to the research, it's one of the most effective learning strategies ever discovered. Every time you work to pull a memory from your mind, you're not just checking what you know. You're strengthening that memory and making it easier to find later. The act of retrieval isn't a measuring stick. It's a tool for building knowledge. Consider a study in a real middle school classroom in Columbia, Illinois. Researchers gave an 8th grade science class a series of short, low-stakes quizzes on some material they were studying. Other material in the same course wasn't quizzed, but was reviewed multiple times. A month later, on the final test, what happened? Students scored an A-, on the quizzed material and a C+ on the stuff that was just reviewed. The simple act of being forced to recall the information made it stick. This testing effect, as psychologists call it, fundamentally changes how we should study. Instead of rereading your notes, put them away and quiz yourself. What were the key ideas from that lecture? How would I define that concept in my own words? Flashcards are retrieval practice. Explaining a topic to a friend is retrieval practice. The goal is to shift from passively consuming information to actively pulling it out of your brain. But here's the crucial twist, the part that makes this strategy so powerful and so counterintuitive. The learning benefit is greatest when retrieval is hard. This brings us to the second pillar of effective learning: embrace desirable difficulties. Our intuition tells us learning should be fast and easy. If it feels difficult, we must be doing something wrong. The science shows the exact opposite. When learning is harder, it's stronger and lasts longer. The authors highlight several of these desirable difficulties, but two stand out: spaced practice and interleaved practice. First, let's talk about spacing. We all know the cramming experience. It's what researchers call massed practice, doing something over and over in a short burst. And it can work for a little while. You might pass tomorrow's test, but a week later, most of that information has evaporated. The gains from cramming are fleeting because they rely on short-term memory. Spaced practice is the opposite. It means studying information more than once but leaving significant time between sessions. When you return to a topic after a few days, you've forgotten some of it. Recalling it now takes more cognitive effort. It feels less productive, like you're struggling. But that struggle is exactly what matters. That effort tells your brain this is important. Hold on to this. It forces you to reconstruct the learning from long-term memory, strengthening connections, and making knowledge more durable. In one striking study, surgical residents learned a new microsurgery technique. Half learned it in a single day-long session, massed practice. The other half learned it in 4 shorter sessions, spaced a week apart. A month later, they were all tested. The doctors who learned through spaced practice outperformed their colleagues in every single area. They were faster, more precise, and more successful at the surgery. The difference was so stark that 16% of the doctors who learned in a single day couldn't even complete the surgery without damaging the patient. In this case, a live rat. The lesson is clear. Learning that's easy is like writing in sand. A little bit of forgetting is actually your friend. The second desirable difficulty is even more counterintuitive. It's called interleaved practice. Imagine a gym class where the goal is tossing beanbags into a bucket 3 feet away. One group of kids practices by tossing only at the 3-foot bucket, over and over. Another group mixes it up. They toss at buckets 2 feet away and 4 feet away, but they never practice on the 3-foot bucket. After 12 weeks, who does better on the final test, tossing into the 3-foot bucket? By a huge margin, it's the kids who never practiced at that distance. Seems impossible, right? But this is the power of interleaving. Interleaving means mixing up the practice of different skills or topics. While massed practice, or blocked practice, feels better because you see rapid improvement on one specific skill, interleaving builds deeper, more flexible understanding. Here's a more academic example. College students learned how to calculate volumes of 4 different geometric solids. One group practiced in blocks, all the problems for one shape, then all for the next, and so on. The other group did the same number of problems, but mixed up. During practice, the blocked group did much better. They felt like they were really getting it. But on the final test a week later, the results flipped. The interleaved group scored more than 3 times higher. Why? Because when you practice in blocks, you're just executing the same solution repeatedly. You know what kind of problem it is before you start. But when problems are interleaved, you have to do something much harder with each new problem. You first have to figure out what kind of problem it is. This process of discriminating between problem types is a critical skill, and blocked practice never teaches it. Life doesn't serve up problems in neat, predictable blocks. It's messy and mixed up. Interleaved practice prepares you for that reality. So we have retrieval, spacing, and interleaving. These are the cornerstones. But the authors give us a few more powerful tools. One is generation. This is the idea that we learn better when we try to solve a problem before being taught the solution. Think about it. When you're assembling furniture, do you learn more by reading the manual cover to cover first, or by diving in, trying to fit pieces together, getting stuck, and then checking the manual for the specific step you need? The struggle to find the answer yourself makes your brain more receptive to the solution when you finally discover it. It creates a mental hook to hang the new knowledge on. Another is elaboration. This is giving new material meaning by connecting it with what you already know. When you're learning about heat transfer, don't just memorize definitions. Relate them to your experience. Conduction is warming your hands on a hot mug of cocoa. Radiation is sunlight on your skin on a winter day. Convection is the blast of air conditioning on a sweltering afternoon. The more you explain new learning in your own words and connect it to existing knowledge, the stronger your grasp becomes, and the more cues you create to help you remember it later. These strategies, retrieval, spacing, interleaving, generation, and elaboration, aren't just theories. They're evidence-based tools that work. But there's a final, crucial piece that makes all of them possible. It's a belief. The book makes a powerful case against a common and damaging idea, the myth of learning styles. You've probably heard it. I'm a visual learner. I'm an auditory learner. The theory claims we learn best when information is presented in our preferred style. The authors, after reviewing the scientific literature, deliver a clear verdict. There's no credible evidence to support the idea that matching instruction to a person's preferred learning style improves learning. In fact, believing you're locked into one style can be incredibly limiting. It gives you an excuse to disengage from learning that isn't delivered exactly how you like it. What matters far more than your preferred style is that you go wide, that you draw on all your aptitudes. Good learning is multimodal. It involves seeing, hearing, doing, and connecting. Instead of focusing on a supposed learning style, the authors point to a much more powerful difference between learners: their mindset. Drawing on psychologist Carol Dweck's work, they explain that people tend to have one of two beliefs about intelligence. Some have a fixed mindset. They believe intellectual ability is hardwired from birth. Others have a growth mindset. They believe abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. This single difference in belief has profound consequences. With a fixed mindset, every challenge becomes a test of your innate ability. Failure is an indictment. It means you aren't smart enough, so you avoid challenges you might not ace. But with a growth mindset, you see challenges differently. You understand that effortful learning literally changes your brain, building new connections and making you smarter. You see failure not as a verdict, but as useful information, a sign you need to dig deeper or try a different strategy. Making mistakes isn't weakness. It's a critical part of building expertise. Embracing a growth mindset is the fuel that powers all the other strategies. It gives you courage to embrace desirable difficulties, resilience to persist when retrieval feels hard, and wisdom to see that the struggle to learn isn't a barrier. It is the way forward. In the end, Make It Stick delivers a message that's both liberating and empowering. Learning isn't something that happens to you. It's something you do. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned and improved. You're not stuck with the brain you were born with. The power to increase your abilities lies, to a surprising extent, within your own control. By taking charge of your learning, by replacing comfortable but ineffective habits with strategies that are effortful but durable, you can truly make knowledge stick, ready whenever you need it, whether you're taking an exam or flying a crippled plane through the dark of night. As we reflect on the powerful ideas in Make It Stick, what stands out most is how deeply this book challenges our culture's obsession with speed and ease. We live in a world that celebrates the quick fix, the life hack, the shortcut. We want to learn a language in 10 days, master a skill in an afternoon, and see results instantly. This book offers a quiet, firm, and scientifically backed rebuttal to that entire way of thinking. The most profound lesson, for me, is the concept of desirable difficulties. It's a beautiful paradox. The moments we feel most frustrated, when we're struggling to recall information or trying to solve a problem that feels just beyond our reach, these aren't moments of failure. They're the very moments learning is being forged. The struggle isn't an impediment to learning, it is the heart of learning. This shifts our entire perspective on effort. Effort isn't a sign of weakness or lack of talent. It's the engine of growth. When you embrace this, everything changes. A difficult study session is no longer frustrating, but a sign you're doing something right. A mistake on a practice test isn't a failure, but valuable data, illuminating exactly where you need to focus next. The authors have given us more than techniques. They've given us a new philosophy of learning, grounded in a growth mindset. It's a philosophy that replaces the anxiety of performance with the joy of progress. It reminds us that mastery isn't a gift bestowed upon a talented few, but a journey available to anyone with the discipline and courage to take the harder, more effortful path. So how can you start putting these ideas into practice today? Let's not get overwhelmed. Here are 3 simple practical actions you can take right now. First, practice the 5-minute recap. The next time you finish reading a chapter for school, leave a class, or watch an educational video, don't just move on. Take 5 minutes. Put away your books and notes, and on a blank piece of paper, write down everything you can remember. What were the key ideas? What surprised you most? Force your brain to retrieve the information without any cues. It will feel hard, but this simple act of retrieval is one of the most powerful things you can do to make that learning last. Second, mix it up. When you sit down to study, resist the urge to do one thing for a long stretch. If you're studying for a math test, don't just do 20 problems from Chapter 5. Do 3 problems from Chapter 5, then 2 from Chapter 4, then 1 from Chapter 2, then circle back. If you're learning vocabulary words, constantly shuffle the deck. This is interleaving, and while it feels less organized, it builds more flexible and robust understanding that will serve you far better on test day and beyond. Third, become the teacher. Find someone, a friend, a family member, even your dog, and try to explain a key concept you're learning in your own words without looking at your notes. The act of formulating the idea, structuring it, and speaking it aloud will instantly reveal gaps in your understanding. It forces you to engage in both retrieval and elaboration, 2 of the most potent strategies we've discussed. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That was a summary of Make It Stick by Peter C. Brown, Henry L. Roediger III, and Mark A. McDaniel. We've touched on the most important principles today, but I'll be honest, a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It can show you the landmarks and main roads, but it can never replace actually walking the trails, breathing the air, and discovering the hidden gems yourself. The real magic happens when you read the book. It's in the quiet moments when a particular story or simple phrase connects with you in an unexpected way. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has lit a spark in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new study habits. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see your own potential. Also, if you found this summary valuable, I'd be so grateful if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know this work is helpful, and it ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.